¡Vamos! Check. Traces of your world hunt me down inside. I should run and go, I should run and hide, but I'm stuck on you. You make me feel like a flyer. You make me feel like a kid. You make me feel like each of the five galaxies swirling in Stefan's quintet. I wanna tell you how I feel tonight. I keep trying but the words ain't right. Nothing's fitting for a kind like you. I'm never speechless when the earth's my fuel. Killing the time, building a fort, wrapped in each other as we fall in love. I've never met a girl like you. Never met a girl like you. Traces of your lips linger on my waist. I don't wanna go, I don't wanna wait. I'm needing you. We shouldn't speak of this magic. We should just say what they know. I've heard a rumor of humans who sniff out the good things to suck out the soul. I wanna tell you how I feel tonight. I keep trying but the words ain't right. Nothing's fitting for a kind like you. I'm never speechless when the earth's my fuel. Killing the time, building a fort, wrapped in each other as we fall in love. I've never met a girl like you. Never met a girl like you. Killing the time, building a fort, wrapped in each other
Okay, so 7:30. It is time to begin. Alrighty, so let's switch over to that for now. As I mentioned a few days ago, I'm going to probably do my first couple of live streams specifically on Python, and bear in mind that if you have been coding, get some feedback here. It's time. If you've been coding for any period of time, this is probably going to be way too basic for you. If you've never coded anything before in any other languages, then it's probably not going to be too bad for you. It might not be too boring, but for some of my constituents out there that have been coding for a great deal of time, this is probably not the droids that you're looking for. So anyway, my name is Coach, and I am one of the mentors at GoCreate. And this is basically my attempt to show you guys some cool things in a less than conventional manner. So every week, Tuesdays, 7:30, I will be live streaming something. And in this case, today, it's Python. But there could be some days where I'm teaching Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, SolidWorks, SketchUp. I mean, I'm just going to go down a bunch of different little things, so you never know what you're going to get. Well, you kind of do, because I typically announce a week or two prior what I'm going to be doing. So anyway, so let's get into this slideshow then, shall we? Okay, let's see here. Drag this over. Make sure we're showing slideshow. All right, perfect. So before I begin, I'm just like super new and super lame at live streaming. I don't have like the slightest idea what I'm doing yet. There's this thing with all these buttons in front of me, and I'm just trying to make sure that everything's meshing up, and then of course I'm dealing with the latency of the internet. So anyway, we're going to talk about Python. So what is Python? So the general consensus that I get when I dig around the internet for buzzwords is that it's modern, it's very general purpose, and it's a programming language. And the fun fact about it is that it was actually named after a Python show, the Monty Python show. So anyway, it was initially developed by this Dutch programmer by the name of Guido van Rossum in the late 1980s. And like I said, as the name comes from the Monty Python show, it's not actually named after a snake. So nowadays, Python is one of the more popular languages, and as a matter of fact, you can find indexes out there. There's this one index, for example, it's called the TOB, or the TIOBE index, and they sort of, I don't want to say they rank languages. I think it's kind of like based on popularity or based on how much it's being used. And I've even seen videos, like YouTube videos, where they'll do like a year time lapse over how popular languages are. And so you'll see Python kind of goes from the bottom of the list all the way up, and then it falls off, and C comes back on top again, and then, you know, it's just, anyway, as of right now, it is just a bit more popular than C-based languages. There's a huge community of developers out there. So if you are indeed trying to use Python for your endeavors, you'll find all kinds of resources on the internet and people that are willing to help. If you're local to GoCreate, you could probably bring some of your code in to me, and if I'm at the facility, I'm sure I'd be happy to take a look around. I'm not by any means a like Python Jedi, but I can definitely help you to some extent. There's also web pages out there. One particular, if you write down of things that you want to Google later, Stack Overflow. So if you're really getting stuck on something in Python, Stack Overflow has people out there that'll help. You just create an account, ask questions, and you rate the answers that you receive, and of course, the more constructive you are, and the more what's the word I'm looking for? The more thorough you are in posting your questions and your comments, the higher they rank. And you'd never believe it if I told you, but Stack Overflow is one of those things where if you have that problem, chances are someone else who is also new has that same problem, and so when they Google it, it's literally going to show up in the rankings of Google, and someone else is going to find that answer. Developing with Python is supposed to be easy and fun. That's one of the biggest things about this language. It's not something where the syntax is supposed to be just super hard and difficult to wrap your mind around. So that's why I picked this as one of the basic languages to start with this whole GoCreate live stream thing on Tuesdays. It's because Python is a very approachable language. So what can you even do with it, right? And I really wish that I was good at impersonations. In this case, if I were Napoleon Dynamite, I mean, when I read this, I read it in Napoleon Dynamite's voice. What can you even do with it? Gosh, you idiot. Anyway, so Python is, I want to say, like multi-talented, right? So you can use it for web development. There's frameworks out there that incorporate Python into web, right? So if you're doing like database calls to find a particular block of data and display it on your web page, there's so many things that in the web development world, Python is handy. It's not I don't want to say it trumps JavaScript by any means, but it's definitely very doable. Data science and machine learning are huge right now. There are some resources out there where you can use Python and the libraries that people have written for Python, for example, NumPy or SciPy, to crunch numbers and do some mathematical calculations. There's even some Python scripts out there that you can use for like identifying images or streams of images. Your basic scripting, Internet of Things. I hit on this a little bit last week, but there's devices out there that can be programmed with Python, like the BBC Microbit or the LowPy 4. There's a couple other chips out there that I can't remember off the top of my head, but they are also able to be programmed with Python. You could even use Python in robotics. More specifically, there's this thing that I'm using currently in my robot on base, and we're using the robot operating system. Okay, and that can be done like you can write nodes for your robot in C++ or Python. And the fun thing about robot operating system is that even if you have packages written in different languages, they can communicate with each other. They understand each other. So if you have like 50 developers and 25 of them only know Python, they can write their packages. They can write their packages in Python, and you and your other 25 compadres can write everything in C++, and those nodes will still be able to talk to each other. It's like a very agnostic thing, and so that's one of the main attractions for me with using robot operating system on our stuff, is that some of my CS students from Wichita State University feel really comfortable in Python, and the other ones feel really comfortable in C++. In some cases, you can also use Python to develop apps for your desktop. I don't by any means have the inclination to go into that in depth right now, but it exists. Let's see here. So Python 1.0, we'll just quick little short history. I kind of skipped this. Python 1.0 came out around 1994. Python 2.0 came out around the 2000s, and it was a very popular release amongst the programmers. There was different 2.0, like 2.6, 2.7 versions out there. 2.7 still kind of being used, and of course Python 3 was the next major release that came out in 2008, and it broke some backward compatibility with the predecessor releases, but that's not to say that you can't convert some of the code that was originally written in 2.7 to Python 3.0. It's totally doable. Okay, so there was a thing that okay. So let's do some code. I think my choice of background images are quite interesting. So let's see. Let's go to. I'm just going through my notes to make sure I don't miss anything. So let's talk about a very simple Python program. Okay. So some of you that have Apple iPhones know that as soon as you pull your iPhone out of the box and you turn it on, it says hello, and it's like really nice thin text lettering. It says hello. I don't quite know what Androids do because I've never owned one, and it's not me just trying to be a snob, but let's see, I'm losing my space here. So I don't really know too much about what Android looks like when you turn it on. When you go to an ATM and you put whenever you park in front of it, there's usually some kind of greeting like hello, put in your PIN number or something like that, right? That is a program that was written by somebody to display something to you, and that is where we're going to start our journey in Python today. So I will make sure that I am switched over to the IDE. All right, so the most quintessential program to start with anywhere in any language is Hello World. As a matter of fact, I don't even know why, so let's do a quick Hello World. Hello World program is generally a computer program that outputs the message Hello World. Such program is very simple in most programming languages and is often used to illustrate the basic syntax of a programming language. I'm just looking for the history of this. Who decided to use Hello World? So, it was inherited in 1974, Bell Laboratories, by a guy named Brian Kerningham. So Brian was the dude that decided that everyone should start, or somehow inspired everyone to start using Hello World as their first program. Anyway, I digress. So here in my IDE, you might recognize this. Here in this IDE, in Visual Studio Code, if you have that installed, this is what you would see. There's a file called helloworld.py. .py or .py is the file extension for Python scripts or for Python files. There's a couple of other types of Python files, but we won't go into those, like PYC and whatever. We won't go into those right now. This is a very basic level of introduction to Python. So within your Python file, in this case helloworld.py, you have lines of code. And these lines of code are basically just instructions to your computer to do a job. And in this case, I have something that says hello world. So before I go and actually talk about the code, let's just do a quick run. So I'm going to click on the menu bar up here at the top, and it's going to give you an option to run without debugging, or you can push the Control and F5 keys together at the same time and it'll run your script. So I just ran it, and down here at the bottom you can see this output hello world. So let me close that. We'll try running that again, and there it goes. It ran hello world. Alright, so here we go. What's basically happening here is there's this function called print. That's one of 69 built-in functions for Python. And if you remember from last week, if you wanted to know a little bit more about built-in functions of Python, you can go to the python.org website and learn a little bit more. But as I hover over the function in this IDE, or Integrated Development Environment, as I hover over the function, you can see that I'm getting a little bit of a hint from Visual Studio Code that kind of tells you, hey, like, here's the basic, here's what the function print is looking for. Values, object, all the different things that you can do with print. And inside of that we have some quotation marks, double quotes, and then the hello world statement. So if I add a comma to this, save it, and run it, let's see here, run without debugging. So compared to the last one, now there's a comma in that, whereas this one does not have one. Okay, so this is like a good time to talk about PEP8 or PEP8. So in the comment or in the description below this video, I posted a link to some web resources on the work on PEP8, or Python Enhancement Proposals, and 8 specifically deals with the style guide. What is the style guide? So a style guide is basically like a best practices when you're writing Python code. It's gonna say, hey, use tabs, or always have an empty line at the the very last line of your Python code. Like always add one extra empty line, something like that. So be sure to reference those links. But according to PEP 8, it's always good to have comments in your code and describe what that block or line of code is doing. So let's add a comment. So I'm going to add a space at the end of this line. I'm going to put a hashtag, and then I'm going to say prints a text string hello world. The reason why this is a good idea is when you start writing some more complex code and some files that have much longer document sizes, at some point you're going to be like getting lost in it, and you're going to be like, man, what did I write that line for? What is that even supposed to do? Or I've even found it myself where I won't maybe open that file up for, I don't know, a couple of months, and I'll open it back up, and I'll sit there and look at it really confused, like, what did I even do, right? What does this even mean? So by commenting it, it makes it really nice for yourself or people later on down the line that are going to use your code to understand like what your intentions were. Okay. So again, comment your code and try to follow the PEP 8. Try to follow the style guide to some degree. So we can add a comment to the very end of our code, or we can do something like this. Whoops. Prints our text string. So you can have it right at the beginning of, or like above your stuff. It doesn't make a lot of sense to try to do something like really hackish like this, where you say put a bunch of like this comment line is for way up there. That would really irritate some of the people who have to read your code. Alright, so please don't do that. And I think that there's even something that says you need to put 2 spaces between the hashtag. I'd have to go back and look at that. Block comments or inline comments. Let's see here. Separate inline comments by 2 or more spaces from the statement. Okay. So according to that, if I'm doing an inline comment here, so you have 1 space, 2 space, and then your comment. That's according to the PEP standards. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this extra junk. Alright, so we're going to run that one more time, make sure that it's working. Sure enough, it's working. Now, can I use single quotes to run this? Some of you might already know this answer, or the answer to this question, but if I run it, it works. Can I run one of them as a single and one of them as a double? If I run this, it should break. It's going to say, wait a second, dude, there's something wrong here. We were looking and it just sort of all fell apart right about here. That's because you can't mix them. If you open with a single, you close with a single. If you open with a double, you close with a double. Now let's try something a little weird. So what happens if I do this? I'm going to open and close with the double, and then I'm going to say, she said, man, my grammar's bad. She said, comma, quote, quote, quote. She said, go faster. And then put a period right there. Anybody see the like glaring problem? Well, I'm going to save it and I'm going to run it. It falls apart right there too. That's because, according to this line of code, the end of our text string should have stopped right there. And so this thing here is not declared. It doesn't know. It's like, what do you mean go faster? What is that? What even is that? Because it's not within the text string. So how can I solve that? Let's try this. Instead of using double quotes at the end, in the beginning, let's try single quotes and see if that works. Control save, run, and of course it worked. So if you're going to use a quote, like a set of double quotes inside of your text string, you know, you gotta like, I know it sounds just blaring, like obvious, but whatever. All right, let's try something else. So, actually, I'm going to try single quotes to illustrate a point. Coaches, corner. Oh man, it's being ridiculous. So, I'm going to try to get rid of that one. There we go. Why doesn't that work? It doesn't work because I'm using the same type of quotes in the text string. It's going to break. So let's run it. Of course, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be like, dang, dude. I thought we had this figured out. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So in this case, you would want to end or use the opposite type of quote. There you go. Coach's corner is working again. But what if I wanted to, let's see here, I'm going to go back to I'm going to try, I always mess this one up. It's a escaped character that I'm attempting to run. Okay. So if I have this escaped character, will it run? It does. So this escaped character basically what it's going to do is it's going to, if you're trying to do this whole thing where you're going to do single quotes on your opening and closing, but you want to have a single quote to do this apostrophe thing, you can escape it. And anyway, I don't think that's, like, in my opinion, it's probably not the best form to do, but it's just another option for you. So we'll run it again. All right. Now what happens if you want to print a new line that's blank? Well, you can simply come over here and just, you can do this. I'm actually going to come over here, and so now we should see a blank line. So there's a blank line there. You can do that. Same thing. That's how you add blank lines. It's a little monotonous. I get it for some of you more advanced folks. So let's try something a little bit more fun, shall we? I'm going to go ahead and bring out this, get rid of this here. I think going into future live streams, I'm going to enable the live chat. I have it disabled right now because I wanted to make sure that this video was viewed or viewable by our younger audiences. And when you do that, YouTube automatically disables live chat. So I'll save that, close that for now. Okay, so what about printing something already known? What if our username is going to change every single time? For example, when you put your ATM card in the ATM machine, it doesn't say hello world or hello user. It's going to probably make some kind of reference to your account and be like, who's the account owner of this? Oh, his name is Coach. So let's just take that name and plug it into this statement so it's a little bit more personalized for the user of the ATM machine, in this case, Coach. So here what we're doing is we're declaring a variable, okay, and the variable is a text string. You might see when I hover over that, the prototype says str or string. So when I run this program, let's go ahead and just take a second to say 1, 2, and then a comment. The user's name variable. Okay. And then here I'm going to say should print hello and the name within the variable. That's a little bit lengthy. I'm just going to say and name. You don't want your comments to be like super long. So if I run this, we look down here, it's going to say hello Coach. And notice how there's like a space here and there's a space here. Okay, so if I do that and run, seems like there's an extra space right there. And there is. So it's automatically adding the space for me. I wonder why that is. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so what happens if I change the name? So let's change it to Ken. It's going to say hello Ken. And I could do this for days. Kim. Save. Run. Right? Cass. Oh man, I probably really butchered the spelling on that, and I'll take the hit for it later. See what I'm saying? I could even do this and add a little exclamation point, and it's going to transpire into this text string. Alright, that's like one way of introducing a variable into a function, to print. Let's try something even slightly more cool than just statically doing that. Let's try to get some input from the user. So here I have this first line name, and I'm using this built-in function to get the value for name as soon as the program runs. Okay, this built-in function is called input, and I'm going to add a thing here. It's gonna just do like, okay, will get user name. Will populate username in greeting. Okay, cool. So when I run this, I got this little input down here. It's saying, what is your name? So I can put in my name, Coach. And it's going to say, hello, Coach. I can even put a little bit more spacing in that, just so it's a little bit more readable. Run that again. This time I'm going to put Waldo. He's going to say, hello, Waldo. So that's how you're getting input from the users. And this is like where we start to springboard into some other really cool capabilities, right? Like if you can have a program that takes two numbers and it does math on it, which Python's like really good at math. Or you can take an input and, you know, like maybe get the length of how long that name was, right? Like there's those people, those super genius people that you can say like any word in the library or the English dictionary or whatever, and they'll know just photographically like how long that is, like how long that word is. Python can do the same thing with some built-in functions. All right. So let's see here. Here's some common things that people can mess up. So let's just make let's make a new file. We're going to call it mistakes. I misspelled the word mistakes.py. So here's some things where people can go wrong. So they can put unnecessarily an indentation in here. And there's no reason to do that. Like there's no reason to indent this because there's no code before it. So the Python interpreter is not going to know what to do because it's indented. There's nothing above it. And we'll talk about like functions and loops and indentations a little bit more, but for now we'll just say to indented. Okay, this is another mistake. Well, we won't indent this one. Print. You can see that my IDE is not, it's not like accepting this. It's saying I don't understand that, because if it was lowercase then the colors would be different, but I'm just going to go ahead and put all caps. Not good. Okay. Another, or you can misspell it. A pint. Let's get a pint of you can't spell. I do that sometimes. Code is a fickle thing. Let's see. You can mess up by doing something like this, where you just say, I add one quote, I put some text in, get rid of that last one. That will break. Or you can leave off the end. This is the end. Famous Doorthon. Okay, that's some of the ways that you can mess up this very simple function. And code, like I said, code is a fickle thing, right? So you can think you have everything 100% squared away, and it's usually something so small that you don't see it, and you're sitting there ripping your hair out going, why won't this work? Why doesn't it run? What is wrong with my code? And 9 times out of 10, it's something really, really, really stupid simple. I've worked in other languages where they expect you to put a semicolon after the line of code, something like this, and by missing that semicolon there, or by having an unnecessary, like, let's see, we'll go up here, we'll go to end. By having an unnecessary curly brace or a bracket like that, just something in there is just like, it's always just 1 or 2 characters that you've messed up, and it will break your code. And usually what happens is you'll screen share with your buddies and say, dude, I cannot get this thing to run at all. Like, what is going on? Or you'll copy and paste it and you'll put it in Stack Overflow, and someone will be like, bro, you seriously, all you did was miss a closing quotation marker, or something, like you indented, or you didn't spell it right. Try this, and go back and work at it again, and it'll work. Don't be mad at yourself. It's normal. Everyone does it. I do it. It's just a very common thing in programming. Alright, let's see. Just going to go down my quick checklist here real quick, just make sure I'm not missing anything for you guys. Multi-line programs, we talked about that already. So that's good there. We talked about taking input. Let's work with some numbers. Let's do that. What if we wanted to take some numbers? So let's do a quick save. And I'll close this. We'll create a new file here. We're going to call this play with numbers.py. Alright. So let's say I got this input. Actually, we're going to call this number. No, that's bad. Let's call it user underscore number equals input, put in a number, dude. And we're going to print user number. Now, notice in this particular case that I did not put user number in quotes. The reason why I didn't do that, and if you remember here how I introduced this variable into string, you don't have to do that if you're just going to declare the number. There's a little bit of a gotcha here though. I'm going to show you here in a second. So let's run it. So if I put in a number, dude, I'm going to just put in 3. And it's going to come back and say 3. But is it really a number? Or is it a string, like a text string? So if I look here and I hover over this user number variable, it's going to tell me it's a string. So in order to get an actual integer number, I have to use a built-in Um, what is the word I'm looking for? I basically have to convert it to a numerical value using a declared type. So I'm going to type an int. And I'm going to come over here and add this extra closing bracket. I'm going to run it. So I'm going to put in my number. It's an actual number now. And when I hover over user number, it tells me int. So let's do this. User number 1. Okay, we'll do user number 2 equals int input I need another number row ski. So in this case, we'll go ahead and just sneak in some math on you. Print this plus user number 2. Save it. Run it. So let's put in 1 and let's put in 2, and now we added the numbers together and printed 3. There's one more declarative type that I want to try to do, so let's change this to float. Save, run. Oh, I'm sitting here messing my code up. So I'm gonna come over here, put 2, 3, and now notice that it adds the 0.0 to it. So I'm gonna run this one more time, and we'll put in 2.3, and we'll put in 3.2, and it's giving me 5.5. So those are just ways to get numerical inputs from your user, and you have to, if you're expecting this to add or to do math, you want to make sure that you're declaring that specifically, like, hey, I want this to be an integer or I want this to be a float. If you leave it off and you just get the value later, you can format it later. So let's try this. All right. So we can print the integer. This may just blow up in my face live, which would be hilarious if this didn't work. Like, dude, this fool doesn't even know what he's doing. Okay, 2, 3. It worked. See what? So even though I got the text version of it stored up in user number 1, and this, so by text I mean string, and user number 2 stored as a string, here I'm actually converting it to an integer as well as here. I wonder if I can do this. So I'm not declaring it twice. I wonder if I can do this. It just concatenates it. It just puts it together. See how it just added 2 and then 3. So that's not necessarily the way you want to go with that. So I'll put that back there. Come over here. Perfect. Run. There we go. Awesome. So I kind of already introduced you some math. So we'll probably go ahead and just stop there because next time I'm going to talk a little bit more about some math and some incrementing and some just minor function type stuff. Okay, so yeah, let's do a quick recap. We talked about the origins of Python, timelines roughly, popularity, the use cases of Python. I went through some basic hello world stuff and got you spun up with two different types of variables, actually three: the string, the int, and the float. And the first of actually, I gave you two built-in functions, one of them being print and the other one being input. And there's a total of 69 built-in functions with Python, or roughly 69 built-in functions, all of which you can learn more about at python.org. And that will be it for this week. I think the comments are enabled on this thing, so be sure to comment if you have any feedback. I really want to know how bad I am at this streaming stuff, and your feedback helps, right? So let me know how I'm doing there. Also, don't be afraid to click the thumbs up and the like and subscribe buttons. I'm really bad at saying that kind of stuff. I'm not like those people on YouTube that just are super good at promoting themselves like and subscribe, because I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to help you guys out. But the comments help, and if you like and subscribe, you'll know the next time we put up live stream videos. So with that being said, enjoy your week. Be sure to at least attempt a couple of practice runs on what you learned this week, and next week we'll pick it back up. Thank you so much.